Welcome to this screencast for Proposa. Today's session will take you through building a new proposal and all the various features that are able for you to take control of to build stunningly beautiful proposals and win that next piece of business. We're going to start by creating a new proposal. Up to the top right, we'll see a plus icon next to your avatar. I'm going to click that, which is going to initiate the process of creating a proposal. The first screen you see here will ask for a bit of information about this particular proposal. A title, which will be used extensively throughout the Proposa application to identify which proposal this is. For today's purposes, we're just going to simply name this Proposal for Screencast. The theme section, you'll notice that you have about 4 different theme options. You can browse those themes by clicking the themes button. And really what that controls is the font sizing, the kind of colors that go along with it. You may want to browse, but for today, we're going to choose the Modernist. The permalink right down here is going to show you what the URL, the base URL of your proposal will be. You can edit that if you want to. I can go and take out the proposal for and just say screencast. And then simply I'm going to identify a value here. Let's say this opportunity is worth $100,000. Clicking continue. You'll notice that the proposal builder will then show up for you. There's nothing here, but that's what we're going to go over to try to build out this proposal. Hovering over add element, you'll see kind of the base for what Proposa does. We have 4 content types that you can choose from, which we'll go through each of those today. There's a panel, a list, a slideshow, and a table. And then to the far right, you'll see saved content where you may choose to pull in a piece of content that you've built before. For right now, we're going to choose a panel. Okay, so our section is loaded up here, but as you can see, there's nothing there. So let's go over kind of the options that are available for you. There's a label right up here that if you do a good job of labeling each piece of content, that'll come in handy down the road when you look at the overall organization of your proposal. For this one, we're just going to do a header. We're going to choose a dark scheme here. And the difference between dark and light is that dark provides a dark background and a light foreground, meaning you have a black background and white text, or the opposite here, which is light, which is a light background and a dark foreground. We'll keep it dark. You can also choose a column-based layout, 1 column, 2 columns split evenly, 2 columns, a larger one to the left, and 2 columns, a larger one to the right. For this demonstration, we'll keep the 1 column. For the background, you'll see that we have 2 options that you can build, either a color-based background or an image-based background. I can choose green, yellow, red, or really any other color that I choose by pulling up the color picker. For this purpose, we're going to actually upload an image to show you how great and dynamic this can look for you. And I've got a nice picture of a cityscape here that we'll insert. And you'll see once that comes in, you will see kind of the image there in the background. Once you start adding some text, that'll come to life a little bit. But first, to describe kind of the meaning of these 2 checkboxes down here. There's a masking option. So if I choose it off, it's the image in its full brilliance. If I choose mask, what that does is it applies a semi-opaque layer to kind of bring out the text and separate it more from the background. In many cases, your background is going to need to be masked just so you can read the content on top of it. There's also a fill viewport, which means that whatever device your user opens this proposal on, that first screen is going, or this particular content section will fill the entire editable zone. We're going to leave that off for right now. Up at the top, you'll notice we have a couple of tabs. The next one over is content. And your content section, you'll see we have column 1. If we chose 2 columns, there would be a second option there for your second column. There's a size option, which I'll describe here in a little bit, but let's go over each of these content inputs and what they mean. So the tag can be a proposal for, and you can see over here it kind of builds out a representative information about what this particular section is about. And this heading will be, we'll just call it Acme Corporation. So this is who you're proposing. And down here will be a place for the meat of your content. I've copied some gibberish text here just so you can kind of see how it looks. And you can see on first glance that text may be a little small for this large of a content zone. So up here I may actually go and choose the 2x option, which you can see blows everything up to much more brilliance. This is really meaningful for title slides or information that deserves a hierarchy that is bigger than the rest of your proposal. Clicking save, you can kind of see now what we've put together is a nice first slide where you're proposing Acme Corporation. You believe this opportunity is worth $100,000. This is the first thing that they're going to see. Let's go back and edit it real quick by pushing the pencil icon to the top right. And we're going to reinstantiate everything. And I just want to toggle on this fill viewport just so you can see what it does. And you can see now it only uses the space that it needs to create enough room between sections, but it's much smaller in scope. I'm also going to toggle off the mask background just so you can see what happens there. And you can see that cityscape image in the background really is too bright to read text on top of it. I can also play with this light and dark scheme, turn that black, but you can also see now that it's still much too dark to be able to see. I'm going to leave it white, reapply my mask. There we go. Now this looks much, much better. There's our first content zone, and I'm just going to go back and fill in that viewport because this really does look nice. It feels really good. And now let's talk about this third item over here, which is animation. You can animate particular pieces of your content. For example, your tag, right now it's set to fade. We have a couple of other options. You can do a fade left to right, and if you notice right there, that animation was queued for you. This will happen for the users automatically. You can do fade right to left, and you'll notice there again that it demoed that animation for you. One particular thing I really like is kind of cross sections of animations. So if I choose fade left to right for the tag, I'm going to choose fade right to left for the content below it, both the headline and the body copy there. That's going to create some depth, some interest to your proposals. So be sure to play around with those settings. Your options are a simple fade, fade left to right, and fade right to left. Okay, now that we've built our first panel, let's go through and demonstrate a few of the other things that you can do with Proposa. At the very bottom, you have your add element, and then you can choose a different content zone to go below that. You'll also notice if I hover on any section, there's a plus to the bottom right here, and one to the top. If I wanted to insert a particular content zone in between sections, I could use these icons here. For this demonstration, we're just going to go to the bottom, and we're going to add a list. Okay, so the same thing kind of takes over. Here's your blank zone. We're going to mix it up and go with a light scheme here. Things that are more text heavy, you may want to choose a lighter scheme just so the readability is a bit better. I'm going to choose kind of our gray default color right here. And I'm going to turn off our mask because we really don't need the mask for a light background that doesn't really have much impediment in the ways of viewing. Going to come over here and I'm going to name our label here, which will be goals. Go into content. Now I have the same options I had before with a tag, a heading, and some text. So this text, this tag right here, I'm just going to say objectives. I'm going to spell it correctly. And below that, the heading will be your goals. And again, I'm going to use the same kind of gibberish content there that we did before. This will be the intro to your list items here where we'll enumerate your goals. And over besides introduction, you'll see the word list. I'm going to click it. We have two different list types. We have a bulleted list and a numbered list. So depending upon your goals and what you need will depend on which list format you'll use. For this purpose, we're going to go ahead and choose the numbered layout, and I'm going to add an item. So I want to say, re-examine your sales processes and introduce new ways of streamlining proposals. That'll be your first one. I'm going to put a hyphen there between re-examine, make it look a bit better. For the second list item, implement Proposa to win more and win more often. And the third, increase revenue by increasing win rate. These are all things that Proposa can do for you. I'm going to click on save, and you'll see now that we have a couple of items there for goals. You can add as many as you want. We have 3 here. If you had 6 goals, you can certainly do that. Now what you've got is you've got this nice big intro screen. You have a list of goals, and that demonstrates the difference between a panel and a list. Let's move down to a slideshow. Slideshows can be fun things to implement and to showcase your users. These are perfect for showcasing work, showcasing your team, a lot of different things that you can do with the slideshow. And we'll make this dark. We'll keep this dark, but we'll apply a new color here, kind of a slate gray. We can remove the mask again because we're not going to need the mask on just a flat background color. Some colors you may need to do that, but this gray we won't necessarily need to do. We'll label this particular content zone, and we'll call it a team slideshow. For our tag, we'll say who you'll work with, our team. Use that same content that we've used before just for demonstration purposes. And I'm going to jump over here to, you'll see now where we have introduction. This used to say list, but since we chose a slideshow, we can go and look at the slides. Same format here. I can add a slide. I can give that slide a title and some content. So we'll say Jonathan Jones. We'll provide his bio. And then we'll say Leslie Alexander, provide her bio. And a third, we will say Adam O'Leary and give him a bio as well. Clicking on save, you'll now see that we have a slideshow here. We can toggle through different members of your team in a nice aesthetically pleasing format. You can include images in these slideshows. Whatever you wish to do, you can certainly do that right here on screen. And that's a demo here of your slideshow. Moving down to our final content type is a table. Every proposal has a table of some sorts. We have pricing tables, schedules, delivery items, anything that you can think of that needs a tabular format. The table certainly is your friend here. We're going to choose a light scheme and choose the same gray that we did before. And let's title this Deliverables. And over on content, again, you've seen this before. We'll use a tag investment, your project plan. Use that same content we've used before. This can really set the intro for what they're about to see. Beside introduction, you'll see table now. We do have a table editor here, which should look pretty familiar. It's like an Excel spreadsheet, and we've got a couple of options to explain here. The first one, on the left, the checkbox says the first row as header. What that means is if you have a header row, which most likely you will, it is checked by default. Those header items can really give some context for what is in that column. You can certainly toggle that off, and you'll notice over here to the right, the header row has been removed. We also have an option here for including a footer. This is any other content. Maybe if you have reimbursable expenses that are variable, you may want to notate that in the footer content of your table. But let's start here. We'll have a couple of things. We'll say this is a milestone as our first column. Our second column will be deliverables. Our third column will be timing. And our fourth will be price. So the first milestone will be acquire a Proposa license. Those deliverables will be set up your company, upload your logo, establish your Proposa brand URL. The timing, let's say this takes 2 days. It should take much less than that, but for the sake of these purposes, we'll say 2 days. And we'll say the price is $100. As with all pricing, you probably want to line that right, just to follow modern accounting standards with how you display pricing information. Our second milestone will be to build a template and preset. Well, we'll make this a little bit shorter. We'll just call it templating. And over here, we'll choose a bulleted list again, and we'll say along the lines of build out reusable content, train the team, and establish some standards. Maybe this takes 1 week. And we'll say this cost $100 too. And finally, we'll label this our milestone of usage. We'll say create the first proposal, send to the prospect, and finally we'll say when. And let's say that takes a day and another $100. So we've built out our table, and maybe down here in the footer content I may say note reimbursable expenses may be up to 15% of your total project cost and is not reflective in the table above. All right, let's hit apply changes. Hit save. And there you see you've got a nice pricing table with some deliverables attached to it. Looks great, certainly fully responsive. People can look at this on their phones, on their tablets, certainly on their computer as well. Let's do something a little bit more advanced here. I'm going to come back to our team slideshow, and I'm going to click this icon right here, which is Save. What this does is it saves this particular piece of content so anybody on your team can use it. Your team may not change all that often. Certainly saving this content will save you the time of having to go back and type this information again a second time or a third time. And just for demonstration purposes, we have a delete button right here. So I'm going to click Save here, and you'll see it automatically pulls in your label Team Slideshow. I'll hit Save. It'll tell you that the slideshow has been saved. And now let's say I want to reinsert that. Let's pretend this is a brand new proposal. I can come down here to Add Element. I can go through and look through my entire library of saved content. Of course, the one that we just saved is the first one there. You'll see a demo of what that looks like. And I'll simply click the button for Use Saved Content and then save again. And you'll see that we have another slideshow, which is a direct duplicate of this one right up here. Let's remove that because we don't really need it for now. All right, so we have a mini proposal here. Let's go through some of the intangibles that Proposa can bring. Up at the very top, you have the sub-navigation bar. The first item is Info. Inside of this detail screen, you can see that you can overwrite some content that you provided when you first created the proposal, anything from the title to the value to the link that you had before. If you needed to change that content, you certainly can. The rearrange icon gives you a drag and drop interface here to where you can kind of rearrange the content in different manners. So if I wanted goals after the team slideshow, I can certainly do that there. We're not going to do that, but this certainly shows how you do it. And your labels here come in handy because now you can easily identify each of the sections that you have if you needed to rearrange. This viewport button right here kind of gives you a preview on what it's going to look like on a phone. And you can see the content here, the way that looks, a tablet, and of course a computer. Proposa is going to handle this automatically for you. You don't have to worry about anything in regards to how this is going to look on different devices. Proposa is going to handle that. You simply don't need to worry about it, but you can certainly preview it if you needed to. A handy feature here is the schedule button. This is something that we use extensively here at Proposa. When we issue a new proposal, we'll give it an expiration date. So if I click this, I can go and choose a date. Let's say it's 30 days in the future. We don't want this proposal to be available past a certain date. And you can see here it says proposal for screencast is set to expire on June 2nd, 2018 and will no longer be accessible. When I save this, if someone tries to pull up this proposal past June 2nd, it's not going to show up for them. What this does is it really protects your pricing from future changes. If you've ever gotten a proposal in your inbox that you issued a year earlier, that's not going to happen anymore. This link will automatically die and it'll be set to an expired state within Proposa. You can certainly reactivate it if you wanted to. You can change it, then reactivate it, and then let your prospects know that it's been updated. So we'll save that there. You can also set a password. This adds a little bit of extra security to your document. Every proposal that is sent has a unique URL attached to it, meaning that no one's going to be able to guess or be able to access your proposals without sending it to them. That's legitimately difficult to do, but if you wanted a password, you can certainly do that. One of the things we like to do with the password, let's say that the person that you're sending the proposal to was an alum of NC State University, make the password sensitive to that. So I can say, go Wolfpack, and set that as the password. Just one more touch to show the prospect that you understand what's going on, you understand them, you understand their background as well. The activity over here is going to pull up a feed. And you can see that here, and you can see I've done a lot of editing here, so it's really, it's built out of a list of every single interaction that has happened over the course of this proposal. I'm going to close that out, and the final thing here is theme. If you wanted to change your theme from the Modernist to the Valiant, you can do that. Notice back here that your tag is a square block with your tag beside it. When I click Save, the Valiant, it changes the typography, it changes a couple of the other accents. You can really choose which one's best for you. The Sophisticate has some serif fonts, a little more prestigious. You may want to use that if that's in your brand standards to use, but we'll go back and change this out to the Modernist. The last thing to show on this screen right here on the header is this status. Right now it's set to draft. And what draft means is that nobody can access this proposal as long as it's set as a draft. There's also a couple other states that you can choose: published, won, lost, and expired. Published means that anybody with a link to this proposal can access it. Won means that you have won this proposal, and as soon as you have marked it as won, that'll display in your analytics with the values that are attached to this proposal, but it also cuts access to this proposal. Nobody from the outside world will be able to see it anymore. The same thing with lost. Expired will happen automatically. If you recall before, we set a schedule of June 2nd. On June 3rd, this is going to be set to expired, which means that there's no external access. Nobody can see this proposal, even if you sent it to them before. We'll leave it as draft for the moment. Up at the very top, you'll notice a preview button here. You can click preview to see what your prospects are going to see. You can scroll through your proposal. You can change the viewport to phone, to tablet, to full screen, to really get a sense for how your prospects are going to feel your proposal at the same time. We also have a full screen mode here, which will open up in a new tab. It'll take away all the Proposa branding and the Proposa utilities here, so that if you had an oral presentation, you can showcase this proposal in its full brilliance. We can go back to edit our proposal, and let's send this to someone. And the way that we do that is this share proposal button to the top left. And you'll see once I toggle this on, there have been no recipients yet that we have sent it to. So let's add a couple of people here. We're going to add myself. And click save. Once I do that, you'll see an avatar will pop up with my name, and it also has a notification here that says notified to send proposal access, meaning that just by adding myself doesn't mean that I've received a link to this particular proposal. You can add additional people. And then one of the cool things that you can do here is that once you've built up your distribution list, I can choose a person to send this to. I can choose both people to send it to. I can certainly toggle on everybody, toggle off everybody. We'll just send it to myself for now. And you can see at the very bottom, I have a cancellation screen, but also a button that says publish and send notifications. That second button is important. If you haven't published your proposal yet, or if it's in a state that's not accessible to the outside world, like won or lost, it's going to let you know that when you click this button, it's going to publish and it's going to send that notification. Once I click that, the notification has been sent. Now your prospect is going to be able to get the proposal, open it up, and see it. You'll also notice up here to the top right that it's blue, and now we have a published state, which means people can see it. The recipient has received their notification. And if you're on the business tier or above, once you go to preview, you'll have a new cool feature here called heat map. You can turn on your heat maps, and you can see section by section who's viewed the proposal and for how long each section was looked at. So for example, here's my deliverables section. Of course, nobody has opened this yet, so it's 0 minutes, 0 seconds. We have this heat map built in to show you what they're looking at for how long. And what this is supposed to be used for is to help you understand your content, understand how your prospects are looking at your proposal, to make alterations that better your proposal with time. Proposa really is about enabling sales professionals to sell better, sell smarter, sell faster. And this feature certainly will do that for you. Again, this particular feature is only available to business tier and above. That concludes our screencast here for creating your first proposal. If you have any questions at all, be sure to use the live chat feature on the website, on the application, right down here to the bottom right. If you click on that, you can talk with us very easily. We're very responsive to that, so if you have any questions at all, please don't hesitate to use that feature. Have fun and happy proposing.